How you doing, guys? Chad here. Welcome back to the farm. I'm here with my friend. This is one of our hens. She's a khaki Campbell. Today, guys, we're going to talk about everything that you need to get started with ducks. If you're on the fence, if you're thinking about getting ducks, if your kids want ducks, ducks can be a lot of fun. They can be a great addition to your farm or homestead, even to your backyard. We're going to talk about food, we're going to talk about water, we're going to talk about housing, and we're going to talk about whether or not these guys can fly. Obviously not, they're too plump. But first, we'll go get the rest of the ducks out onto the pasture here, and we're going to get our guard geese out if they don't attack me. And then we're going to have some fun, start talking about all the stuff that you need if you want to get ducks. So let's go! Ducks are super fun, guys. Super fun. They're very comical creatures, you know. They have a great personality, ducks. I love having ducks. But there's a few things you got to think about, obviously, if you want to go ahead and get ducks. And one of them is, what are you going to feed them? And let me tell you what it is we feed our ducks. On an ongoing basis, we feed our ducks layer feed. It's this stuff right here. This is the same stuff that we feed all of our laying chickens. And it has enough protein and mix of other kind of good stuff so that they can lay some really great eggs. About getting ducks though, and you're starting off in the duckling stage, you got to feed them something a little bit different. Now if you're in an area that you can actually get waterfowl food, then that's what you want to get. I'm sure they also have for ducklings and for goslings and whatnot. And then they graduate up to a grower, and then they graduate up to like a layer type food, but it's specially formulated for waterfowl. But in our case here, as in a lot of cases where people live, you don't have access to waterfowl food. So you just go with a general poultry food. And you start off with the starter, and you graduate to a grower, and then eventually you'll end up with a layer feed. Dexter Morgan, everybody. Dexter Morgan. He just came over to keep me company. There's a very special fact that you have to be aware of when giving your ducks and ducklings chicken food. And the fact is, chicken poultry food doesn't have enough niacin in it. Niacin is something that really helps the leg development of waterfowl. And the most common place that people get their extra niacin from is from brewer's yeast. But really, you can buy it from any, like GNC type place. And now once your ducklings are graduated off the starter chick food, they don't need as much niacin, but I just continue to put some of the niacin in their diet over the course of their life. Now there's a couple different food receptacles you could use when they're ducklings. Some people can use these little rubberized bins. I've seen people using these little trough type feeders, and it only allows their beak to get in so they can make less of a mess, eh? This is also another example of just a tiny little thing for some ducklings, and they can just get their little bills in there and get a little bit of food. Now ducklings can choke very easily, so what we do is we mix the starter chick food with water, and it becomes a type of mash type substance, and that allows the ducks to get it down their throat without choking, and plus they wash it down with water, eh? One side note talking about ducklings specifically is that until they start growing in their first set of feathers, you need to make sure you provide them with supplemental heat. And I like using these ceramic plates. They're like heat plates, and there's a lot less risk of a fire compared to using a heat lamp. Now I keep our ducks and our geese in our permaculture orchard, and I let them free range out there all day through the non-winter months. And I mean, it's great. There's less mess. Their duck house is less messy. Their run is less messy. And honestly, it's much better for them to be on grass. When the ducks are free ranging in a pasture area, there's a couple of great benefits. One is that they get a lot of their protein from the insects in and around. And I mean, when they're out here free ranging all day, I don't even feed them because they're getting enough nutrition from eating bugs. And the other thing is that you don't have to supply them supplemental grit because they're always foraging around in the muck. But of course, if you're in a place that you're not free ranging them in a pasture, then you're going to have to supply them some kind of sand or something. And that's what helps break up the foods when it's in the crops, in their throat. Let's just switch over to water for a second. Now, it's a common misconception out there that ducks need a pool. And in fact, they don't. They do not require a pool. They don't need a pond. They don't need to be able to swim. Mind you, they like to swim. They really enjoy it. As you can see in our duck party pool right here, they're having the time of their life. But they absolutely don't need a pool. If you're able to give them a little pond or a pool, that's great. And I find that these general bins are really, really durable, and they're not too tall, and the ducks can get in and out of them fairly easily, and they work really great. We also use these rubberized bowls, They're good for anything. They're good for food, they're good for water, but they really, really stand up to the harsh winters. And if you're in a cold climate, these things are very pliable, they're bendable, you can break the ice, and they last. If you're looking for a less mess way to keep ducks, don't keep them on dirt or soil. Keep them on pasture or grass and change out their water right there and give them fresh water right there in the grass. They love it and it doesn't turn to muck. Okay, let's switch over to housing. It's my pride and joy of the farm. This here is my custom ultimate duck house. It took me 2 months to build a couple years ago. It's amazing, and it keeps the ducks out of the weather, and it keeps the ducks protected from predators. Those are the two things you have to worry about when thinking about where you're going to house your ducks. You can keep them in a simple shed, folks. You can keep them in a simple tractor, like a chicken tractor. You don't have to make an elaborate thing like what I did here. I'm just a little crazy. But you got to make sure that they're protected from the elements, the weather, and you got to make sure that they're protected from predators. Molly, how are ya? You okay? Hey, you okay? You okay? You okay? You okay? You being good to Olive? Fuzzy! How are you, buddy? You okay? So as you can see, this duck house, it's made with a barn board, like a hard board. It's got a very steep pitched roof so that all of the rain and the snow can just fall right off. And most importantly, folks, you need to build your run with hardware cloth. This hardware cloth stuff is a lot stronger than chicken wire. You don't want to be using chicken wire. Chicken wire is only good for keeping chicken and ducks in something. It's not made to keep predators out. Weasels, minks, coyotes, fox, raccoons, they can just shred the chicken wire to bits. So you got to make sure you use a hardware cloth. We have a 30-foot run here for the ducks when they're not in the orchard. It gives them full protection and they have access to all this space. But like I said, guys, you don't need to build something like that. It can be something very tiny. You can Google it on the internet. There's thousands of different designs out there. I mean, look at my goose caboose. Nobody has a goose caboose. But our ducks are loving the life inside that duck house. So I did something right, I guess. One thing to know also about housing is that you don't want to keep your young ducklings with your big ducks. You know, that's not going to be a good idea. You got to keep them separated. They're not going to play nice. Only once they get a little bit bigger and have their full set of feathers, then you can integrate the flocks. Ducks also lay a lot of eggs, guys. The eggs are bigger, they have a harder shell, the yolk inside is bigger, and it's more nutritious. Now all you gotta do is go ahead and get ducks. And if you want to keep on watching, I got a great video here. It's a nice tour of this custom ultimate duck house. We call it the Ducky Bunkie, so click that. Other than that, I appreciate you watching, folks. Don't forget to pound the like if you enjoyed the video. And go on and get yourself some ducks. And click that subscribe button for me, guys. And you'll see the ducks free ranging in the orchard all the time with the geese. And you'll see all the other animals on the farm. You'll follow along on our journey of transforming this property into our forever homestead. Self-sufficient, self-reliant, and turning it into an amazing farm stay. You guys take care, okay?